Hey, hey, hey. It's Tuesday. It's sad when I start like not even realizing the day of the week, but it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope you guys have had a good week so far. The weather in Toronto has not been great. It actually started snowing today. We were hoping that we were going to get spring, and spring has not sprung because we are still snowing. So wherever you are, I hope you're getting good weather because I am over this. As a island girl, despite living in Toronto, Canada for most of my life, I am still an island girl. This weather is too much. So I hope everybody's having an amazing week. It is mid-March, almost. God, what is today? March the 20th? Are we on the 20th so far? Is today the 20th? It might just be March the 20th. Or is it the 19th? Y'all let me know because I don't even remember what date it is. Let me try to look at my calendar here and see if it's March 19th or March 20th. Whatever it is, like it is the end of March, basically. And I cannot believe we are already that many months into the new year. I really want to know what date. Oh, March 19th. It was right there in front of me on my iPad. March 19th. Can you believe we're March 19th? Like, I feel like the new year has just begun. I hope whatever it is that you are doing, you've been able to achieve a lot in the last few months. So, enough of that, however. There is a topic that I wanted to touch on, and I am not going to spend a lot of time on here tonight because I have another show immediately after this show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern that I have to record. And so I just want to spend a little bit of time because there was a clip that was circulating on Instagram, and it's from Eight at the Table. I was trying to forget if it was between tonight's conversation, Eight at the Table, but it was on Eight at the Table, and it was about passport bros. And I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to read an exchange I had with someone. And quite frankly, when I put the comment on, I haven't even read all of the commentary going back and forth. So some of it might be new to me once I read it. But there was an exchange that I had with someone back and forth about this clip, and why I thought this clip was problematic. And, if we're going to have these discussions, are we trying to have them as a blame game, or are we trying to come up with solutions to a problem? Because to me, whenever you sit around and discuss something, you think it's a problem. And are you going to be part of the problem, or are you going to be part of the solution? And I would hope that if you're sitting on a podcast that is generating hundreds of thousands of viewers, that you would want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But I find that a lot of these podcasts, they like to stir the pot and not actually bring any solutions to the table. So for me, the concept of passport bowls was interesting because, again, I am an immigrant. I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in Toronto, Canada. And the last 2 decades or so, I have had no issues with dating men from the other side of the border. I actually have no issues dating men from any parts of the world. I have been with men back in Jamaica. I've had a relationship with someone I grew up with back in Jamaica while I lived here. And I've had relationships and been married to men on the US side of the border. And I've lived in Toronto, Canada. So for me, I've always felt like love has no border. And I have felt this for many, many years, going back to, my early dating years in my late teens, early 20s. And so this concept, as it's developed, has been interesting to me because what a lot of the women who have an issue was trying to say is that your love can only be within the border of the country that you live in, and that's ludicrous to me. It is ludicrous to me to think that this concept of passport bros is being looked at negatively because a man within America should somehow only marry a woman within America. And if he's a black man, he should only marry a black American woman within that borders. And he should not go out and try to find love elsewhere. There are 8 billion people in the world. For me to think that out of all the 8 billion people in the world, that only the 33 or 30 something million people that live in Canada, the country that I am in, That's the only place that I can find love. I find that just a ridiculous statement. Now, granted, I will be honest, men in my own city have gotten on me because I do date outside of the country, but I date men that court me. And if the men that court me happen to live outside of the country, I am open to that. So again, that's for me, I'm 44 years old. I have been dating men who live in different parts of the world for half of my life. I married one. I married a man that was born in Texas, all that stuff. His family is many generations American, right? So for me, I have never had an issue. And when I met my husband, he was actually stationed in England because he was a part of the Air Force. And so we met on, God, it was either Black Planet or MySpace. I always forget which platform it is. But he was stationed in England at the time. He wasn't even in the US, and we had no problems connecting. So this concept for me is foreign because I have always dated men. Don't care which part of the world you are, as long as we have a passport. Like Obama said one time to Mitt Romney, we have trains, planes, and automobiles to get around. So that's been my thing. So, the idea that love has to be within your borders is weird for me. So when I happened up on the conversation that I'm about to play you, I felt that I needed to respond because some of the things that were being said in the conversation were problematic to me. And I'm actually going to take a couple of notes here from things that were said in this conversation that I found problematic. Okay. And there are a few things that the woman who is making a note of this says that I feel that women should be offended by because of the language that's being used. So anyhow, I'm going to play the clip. Like I said, it is from Eight at the Table. And again, it's talking about the concept of the passport bro, and I'm going to let you hear what this woman has to say. I'm actually going to play it off of a different platform because it might be easier, and I'm hoping that you will be able to see it. I'm going to bring it up here, hoping you can see it on YouTube and see it on Instagram. So let me actually make sure that I turn up the volume so you can hear this clip. Okay, shoot. Let me actually play it from the other thing because I deleted the videos. Now it won't want me to play it. Okay, so I'm going to play it from this, and we're going to go from there. I might have to, hold on. Okay.
The country that's not here.
Hold on, here we go.
Are you passport bros? What is outside the country that's not here?
A lot.
And then you have a whole bunch of people
me trying to side eye you.
I'm like me, and I'm just like, you don't even know me. I'm a great mom. I have state money saved up.
Yeah, but you open that up because you open that up, and they don't care about your topic.
The country that's not here. I'm not trying to.
No, I want to know. Shit, that's why I'm asking.
Really?
Passport bro over here.
Isn't it just cheaper women?
No, but they're also less Americanized or less first world. I don't know.
Why are we Americanized? Let's really think about it, because I think men say things like that without also adding that we have been traumatized a lot of times for our men. So now we got lit. So now we're talking back, and now we don't want to just deal with shit. So if I've been cheated on most of my relationship, where you've been stepping out, or you've been having babies outside of me, or this and that, that's why become masculine.
But that's why they go over there.
I'm gonna tell you something, right?
Don't come for me, because I know I'm sensitive.
In the other countries, right? They got less than you, right? Why don't they
That's the point.
They ain't better.
No, that's the point. They have less than you, so when you come around, they're just like, I need whatever you got. I'm gonna just praise you.
But also, living outside of America is such a simpler life, though.
Yeah.
Yes, Lord.
I just want to sit on a porch and
By
eat food.
choice. Like,
But no, not by choice.
There's a lot of
50-50, he kind of got a point. Like, you don't have to have Balenciaga.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive a Benz.
or desire
You don't
it.
have to do those things. I think some of the
Vanity.
Pressures.
So,
But it's not even like,
America puts on you.
I don't have any
I
of
was
those
gonna
things.
shoot
no, yeah, but it's not like wanting a life of luxury. It's like wanting to come to America for a better life, but you just come here to struggle.
And enter the rat race.
Okay. I laugh a little bit at this because I find the ignorance of some of the individuals that we've given huge platforms to amusing, because we've done it to ourselves. We have given platforms to people who probably couldn't recognize their name if they saw it on a piece of paper. And I felt like that discussion, I lost a few brain cells. I really did. So I'm gonna point out a couple of things that were said in this conversation, and then I'm actually gonna read the commentary that I got based on my response on this conversation. So a couple of things that were said with respect to the women that live outside of America that these men are trying to get. Now, I think a lot of the times they're thinking about women from overseas, or they're thinking about women from the Caribbean, like where I'm from. However, to me, I'm just going to take it up. Any woman that's not in America, they're kind of putting in this lump. So they're calling these women, they're cheaper women, and these women are less than. And so they asked the question, they didn't allow the men to answer the question, and then they inserted the fact that, aren't they just cheaper women? And because those women have less than, they're just excited and happy to get with an American man who apparently is going to make them move to the US so they can get a better life, but they're not actually going to get a better life. They're just going to enter the rat race. They then contradicted that by saying it is a simpler life in other parts of the country, and they wish they could have this simple life that these cheaper, less than women have. But if the life is simpler and they wish they could have it, why would these cheaper, less than women want to move to America? Which, in their own words, they said, because of their experience with men in America, they have been traumatized because these men cheat on them and have babies on them. And that has created a masculine energy within them. But one of the hosts went and said that, you know, don't come from me because I'm sensitive. So she's traumatized, been cheated on by men she has not vetted properly and brought into her life. And that's caused her to be masculine, yet she's sensitive at the same time. What she also said is that she doesn't understand why men in America wouldn't choose her, and went on to say that she, you know, is a great mom to some other man's kids and has money saved up because that's going to matter. She didn't reach on any tangible things like, I bring a man peace, I bring value to a man's life, I'm my man's biggest fan, I'm his partner, I motivate him. You know, like none of those things. It was about the fact that she was a great mom to some other man's kids and what had money saved up, because these cheaper women that men are going for, these less than women, can't possibly be better than her. So I think I summarized that well. And so I'm going to read an exchange that I had on Instagram about this clip. So I'm going to read my original comment and then I'm going to read the exchange. So I wrote, as a Jamaican woman who grew up in Toronto, Canada, I find this entire narrative ridiculous. I am still a Black woman. Black American women have an issue with Black American men dating white women, Asian women, Latina women, and now Black women from outside of the country. This is ridiculous. I've been married to and engaged to men from America. Most of the men that court me are from America. They're not doing so because I'm somehow less than. They're doing so because I'm a terrific damn woman. A terrific Black woman who can add value to their life. The real question is, why are so many men leaving America to find Black wives from other parts of the world? Now, I only stuck to the Black men because I know that's who these women are talking about. They're not concerned about the white men, Asian men, and Latino men who are also leaving. Their concern is Black men. So my narrative was to Black men. Now there were a couple of men that responded, but this one woman responded to me, and we started in an exchange. So she says, that is beautiful for you. So let me understand as well that you are also saying that you are in no way, shape, or form can relate to the American Black woman or man's plight because you yourself are not in fact an American Black woman from America. Is that a fair statement or assumption? Asking for real understanding, because right now your comment is rather equivalent to a white people saying, why are Black people so angry when they themselves are not Black and have never and will never experience Black people issues? Your perspective is very understandable given the fact that your history, background, upbringing, experience is different because you are not an American Black woman raised in America. And then a man came to my defense and she told him to butt out, which I thought was actually funny. So my response to her was, that's quite a reach. If you read my commentary to understand and not respond, I think you would have understood precisely what I was trying to say. The narrative that is being pushed is that the women from other countries are somehow less than. They are poor and in need and are using Black American men as a come up. That narrative is false and insulting. Also, the lack of accountability that is being displayed in this segment is baffling. As Black women, we all face challenges no matter the part of the world that we're in. To attempt to create a narrative that Black American women somehow have a harder life than other Black women around the world, which left them with no choice than to display unbecoming characteristics, is inaccurate. Instead of posing the question in the manner they have, why not instead ask, why do American Black men feel the need to leave the country to find wives, and what can be done to win them back? Asking the question in that way and listening to understand and not respond will net the results that these women are looking for. This clip and others like it showcase a lack of respectful discourse, which is part and parcel the reason they're looking elsewhere. Does that answer your question? She goes on to say, I completely understand that. Those are really good points. I was not reading to respond at all. Death was not a reach either. I understand why you felt the need to throw that in there, though. You did not lead with the feeling of offense about American Black women making the narrative that non-American women are easy. That alone helps me understand your original comment, and yes, context matters. That is why I asked. While I can agree with some of your statement and understand the feeling behind it, I do not fully agree that it is okay because experience is what molds your perspective as people. In my opinion, as a Trinidadian Black woman who came to America, I will say that there is still a huge difference in history and experience, which you made known in the fact that you are Jamaican who was raised in Canada. Those facts alone molds your perspective and changes your experience. It's like we can't really understand what we have not been a part of. Of course, every woman, no matter the ethnicity, has a struggle. And then hold on. Oh, she actually continues. I did not read this one. So this is what I'm reading for the first time. She continues to say, but if your experience was that of the mass majority of Black American women, you will know that nobody's asking how to win him back. This clip shows a lot, as you pointed out, but just know that there is a lot of American history that goes behind this clip. Getting bits and clips here and there will not tell an entire story. I want to make it clear that I myself do not care why any man or woman will go elsewhere for anything. That alone sounds crazy to me. It's just wild to me that you sound as if these men are not running from a problem that they created and now want to keep pushing the narrative that Black American women are so mad, like there's some prize to be won. Men set the tone and women create the atmosphere. So why do you think the question is not how can she win them back? What tone do you think has been set? And of course, sorry, this is not created clearly, not read right. And of course, this does not apply to all Black men. I have a great man myself in my experience. With men have been very positive, but just like you felt the urge to share your perspective on American women, what do you think they feel like when Black men dog them and then turn to another woman, pushing the narrative of how she is not soft enough, submissive enough, and so on, as if they were so loving and nurturing to her, and he is the wounded victim?
The narrative that others are so easy and poor and looking for a come up did not start with women. It started with your beloved American men. I have been hearing them say it for years out their own mouths. So maybe, just maybe, there is some truth in it, or it's a defense mechanism for American women. Either way, it's going to be a cold day in hell before you actually hear an American Black woman say, let's win them back. And that is possible, unfortunate. And then, so I respond, hey, Shelby. So I respond, I agree that perspective is everything. However, the power of choice is something that tends to be overlooked in these discussions. We choose how we respond to situations that happen in our lives. Every Black woman around the world has been heartbroken by a Black man. Yet why is it that you do not constantly hear this narrative from women in other countries discussing why these heartbreaks have left them hardened? My ex-husband and ex-fiance are both American. I experienced good and bad in both relationships. Yet I choose to use both as an opportunity to learn and grow so that I could be better for my next, instead of using those failures as fuel for an argument about why I now need to have walls up. In addition, I spent quite a number of years, 4.5 in total, in America, and I've yet to experience these awful Black men I care about. We can consciously choose how we view things, and which in turn will help to determine how we react to them. There is simply, as I stated earlier, a lack of accountability in these discussions, which part and parcel are the reasons the men are going elsewhere. You can't have an honest conversation with people who lack accountability. Does that make sense? I then continue to say, oh, she actually read more than I did not read. She said, it makes perfect sense. I'm a huge believer in women not taking accountability and being entitled a lot of the time. Trust me. And many do not want to hear that. I can go on and on about that. But I'm not speaking on heartbreak exactly turning people hard. It is a two-way street. Your original comment had a perspective of it's the American woman's fault, which is why I really wanted clarity on where the perspective came from. And let's be real, we are not speaking on every Black man or woman, but we have to admit there has to be a real reason and deeper rooted issue why that is the narrative of American Black men and women, as you stated, nowhere else. People don't just, people don't just make these things up for no reason. It's not as black and white as you made it sound, or as I possibly just took it. So just like the men feel that the need to go elsewhere, which is why they have every right, let us ignore the fact that a lot of them are not taking accountability as well. Throwing rocks and hiding their hand creates a problem. Mentality overrides heartbreak. So if a woman experiences was so great, why would they not be trying to win them back? Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. This is a lot, and I'm reading for the first time, and some of it just does not make sense, and I'm trying to grasp it. Okay. She continues on to say, I did not really want to go this place, but here we are. This is a deeply embedded in American slave history. From tearing the Black family apart, to the raping of Black women, to the hanging of Black men, to Jim Crow, to the crack era, the mass incarceration of Black men, the killing of Black men, the welfare system, the single mother plight, and more. Black women and men have become angry and hateful towards each other, point the fingers back and forth, abandon each other, only to leave and scream to anyone willing to listen that every other nationality is better. There is deep-rooted trauma and damage in Black American history. Hence to why I kept emphasizing American. Other countries have their own history and struggles, but we cannot name too many struggles that follow the path of the Black American family. I think she meant too many struggles. So when these conversations keep circulating, but no one wants to understand, talk, and heal from the reality of what American has always ignored, and the American Black community is still damaged from them, this is what we'll always get. Endless, damaging, pointless conversations that get everybody in an uproar when it was all a part of the systemic plan, and we're just going to keep reading into it. Okay. So my response was just very simple. That was very long for me to read. Now I'm going to pause before I read my response. We get it. From people outside of the country, as someone who lives outside of the country, we understand. We understand that American Black history has been hard. We get it. We understand that there have been systems in place to keep the Jim Crow era around without it actually being the Jim Crow era, right? We understand that affirmative action is under attack. We understand the reason for affirmative action starting. People outside of the country, especially the border country, where I'm from, Canada, we get it. However, and I had a conversation with someone today who is American. I said, as immigrants that come to another country, and best believe, let's be clear, just because we are immigrants does not mean we were poor in our other country, okay? I did not grow up poor. I did not. I grew up quite well. Was not poor. I didn't need for anything. I've never gone hungry in my entire life. I actually had a very good life in Jamaica. My family did very well for themselves and still do. I don't know what hunger feels like, and I never have, and I never will. Hallelujah, praise the God, okay? So the assumption that because you come from a third world country means you're poor is also inaccurate. Are people in third world countries poor? Absolutely. Are all of us poor? Absolutely not. So stop assuming that because we come from a third world country and we came to North America or we emigrated to another part of the world that we were running away from being poor. We were not. Now, to say all of that to say, as an immigrant, it's actually very difficult to understand sometimes this struggle and this plight, and we can't get ahead when I am surrounded by immigrants who are either emigrated to this country when they're young, or their parents emigrated and had them here, so they're first generation. This idea that the system is so corrupt that you just can't get anywhere. You have to keep being on welfare, and you have to keep being a single mother, and you can't get your credit together, and you can't get a home, and there are nothing in place to help us. When I look around and I see immigrants from other current countries flourishing all around me, who were not born here, who do not get the same entitlement because they were not born here. My Canadian passport says I'm from Jamaica. It lets people know that I am not from here. It says country of birth, Jamaica. It's very clear. It actually says Kingston, Jamaica. But it's very clear that I do not belong here. So as someone who is in a country where it's very much stated, even in her own passport, that has the Canadian, it's got the maple leaf on the Canadian, it says that I'm from somewhere else. So anybody who looks at my passport knows she's got a Canadian passport, she's not here. Why is it that people like me are still able to thrive in a country that they were not born? So I get this argument, but it's actually getting tiring for the rest of us who don't have that argument. I came into a country where people told me I was different. I came into a country where people told me I did not belong. I came into a country and realized that I was Black for the first time. People told me you're Black. I did not know I was Black. I did not know that I wasn't like going around, I'm a Black Jamaican. I was just Toshiba and lived in Jamaica. That's who I was. And then I came to Canada and they told me I was Black and I was different. So as immigrants and as Black immigrants, we have to deal with all of these things that you do not have to deal with when you are born in this country and you have generations of family that's born in this country. So I will be honest, I don't understand these excuses of we had to be this way and the system is designed against us and there's no way that we can get out of poverty and we have to keep living in subsidized housing and we keep having to have generations of single parenthood because we just don't know no better. Stop it. And that's always the excuse that I hear when these conversations happen. Black men have harmed us, Black men have hurt us, Black women have hurt us, the system is against us. It's all of this stuff. Enough. We are at a point in life where we have choices and choices have consequences and we can choose what path we take. And yes, our choices are also based on our circumstances, but we can also change our circumstances. And again, I have friendships with all of my friends are immigrants. All of them are not far removed from immigrants. Every single friend I have, their parents were born someone else. My daughter is first generation Canadian. She's the first one here that was born in Canada. My nieces and nephews were first generation Americans because my sisters live in the US. We came from somewhere else and had children to give them better opportunities. There is a reason my daughter is graduated on the Dean's List. There is a reason my daughter has aspired to the heights that she's gone to, because as an immigrant, I knew that being ripped out of my country, the whole point was for me to give her a better life. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those of you who keep saying that you have it hard. We all have it hard. I'm still Black. Anyways, I just needed to say that for a second. So after all of that, okay, let me just tell you what my final response to this woman who was telling me that I could not quite understand why American Black women would be mad at the passport bros concept, because I myself am not American. I've never lived in America. And I don't understand American history. And I actually have spent 4.5 years in America because I was married to an American and engaged to another one. So I spent time in Las Vegas, Nevada. I spent time in Louisville, Kentucky. And I spent time in Phoenix, Arizona. So I am and I have traveled all across. I've probably been to 25 states in America through personal and travel. I've probably been to parts of America that Americans have not been to, like seriously. So this idea that you have to live in America to understand the American experience falls, you do not need to. Anyway, so I responded to this young lady. I said, if the goal is not to win them back, what is the purpose of the discourse? I don't know about you, but in my professional life, I've never worked for a company who spent time strategizing and discussing client files they did not want to keep or win back after a loss. In my career, I've managed upwards of 13 direct reports, and I've never called a team meeting to discuss a matter I did not want a solution to. I find it difficult to believe, based on the number of times I've heard the same question asked from this show and others, that a solution is not being sought. That a solution is not being sought, or at the very least, the matter is troubling and triggering to those asking. But what do I know? My experience as a Black woman doesn't matter because I'm not American. Now, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Love has no borders. And so I would really love women who are talking about this whole passport bros phenomena to actually get to the root of what the issue is. Because you cannot be saying that the issue is that men are leaving the country to find wives and or girlfriends or settle down. What the real issue is, the type of men that they want no longer want them, because they want women who fit the archetype of the type of wife that they want in their life. And they will never fit this archetype because they have masculine energy and are not, again, the archetype that these men want. If the passport bros that were leaving America were undesirable, if the men were of a lower stature, these conversations about passport bros would never happen, because it would be not an issue. We don't want you anyways, sayonara, goodbye. The issue with the concept of the passport bros is that it makes women have to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that the choices that they've made now have consequences. And these consequences means that they're not being chosen. Shelby, I am going to put your So Shelby, you are killing me, right? Like Shelby says, that sounds too much like right. And no one wants that. No one really wants to deal with the reality of the situation, because the reality in the situation doesn't put the asker of the question in a positive light. I do not care, and I have never cared, where anybody has found their husband and or wife. I've never even thought of it. Because again, as someone who has dated long distance for most of the last 20 years, most of my significant relationships, the men have lived on the other side of the border. I also have never met these awful Black American men that I hear Black American women talk about. I have never encountered one. I have been, like I said, I have been to probably 20 plus states, with several cities within some of these states. I have spent significant amount of times in major cities like New York, Atlanta, Miami, and these awful, terrible Black men who do awful, terrible things to Black women. I've never met these men. I have met some of the most gracious, amazing men. I can tell you stories of, and sometimes I wonder why I even trust people the way that I do. But I remember one time I was taking a flight out of Buffalo. I had driven my car to the airport because it was cheaper for me to leave out of Buffalo to get to New York. Then I was going to Queens to go visit my dad. So I drive to Buffalo. And I am in the airport and I'm sitting there minding my business, reading a book, and a gorgeous, gorgeous Black man comes by. We start chatting, we're engaging, we're having, really great discourse. We get on the plane, we find that we are sitting in different sections. He does not want to end the conversation. Once the plane has taken off, he actually find that there was an empty seat beside him. So he asked the flight attendant if it was okay to get me to move into the seat. I move into the seat. We continue to have this wonderful conversation for about an hour. We get to, I want to say that I flew into JFK that time. I think I probably flew into JFK that time. No, I flew into LaGuardia because I usually fly into LaGuardia. So whatever airport, I flew into the airport. He gets me a cab. And at this point, I realize he speaks Spanish. So he gets me a cab. He takes me all the way to Queens to make sure that I'm safe and that he could communicate with the driver. We exchange number. He gets me to my hotel that I'm staying with to visit my dad. He then goes back to Brooklyn where he lives. So takes me to Queens, pays for the cab ride clearly, brings me, goes back to Brooklyn. The next day he comes because I told him that my father was not well. And that's why I'd come to visit him. And then he comes to take me to breakfast the next day just to check on my well-being and see how I was doing. This is a total stranger I met in an airport. Now, if I had been rude to him, if I had been disrespectful or belligerent or just did not have a good attitude, I would have not gotten this result. So as women, I don't care which part of the world you're from, can you just acknowledge that your attitude, the way you act, is netting you the results that you're getting? I just want to read this commentary here. Mr. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Social media is a great way to see how false accusations happen in real time. This exemplifies why the notion of innocence until proven guilty exists. I actually agree with that. There has been this, listen, and Mr. I don't know if this is your first time joining my show, but I created this show to change the conversation around Black relationships. And I can respect that I have a certain viewpoint because I have experienced good relationships in my life. Have I experienced bad in those relationships? Absolutely. I've experienced being cheated on. I experienced being lied to. I've experienced, babies coming out of this cheating fiasco that I've been in, but none of them have skewed my view of Black men to the point that would ever come on a platform and say that Black men are awful and I do not need them, because I understand that the results of my life are also a consequence of my choice. So, Mr. Again, you said, I literally just explained what you said to a woman in my comments earlier today. Did she listen? Because let me tell you, these women are not listening to me. Because, here's the thing, I think, I think it's so interesting to see my viewpoint as a Black woman be invalidated because I'm not a Black American. Somehow the narrative of the Black American woman is greater than the narrative of a woman who's Black outside of America. I understand that in different countries you have different experiences, but this idea that the Black American woman's experience is so difficult, how about they try living in Rwanda, Somalia, the Congo, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, where I'm from, okay? And I could list a whole host of countries where the realities of their day-to-day life, how about them try living in Iran, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries where women actually do not have rights, and then talk to me about how hard their life is in a country where they're free to make choices, yet they make wrong choices and blame everybody else for the choices. So Mr. You're saying, I appreciate your efforts. I viewed your live stream briefly a few times. This is my first time commenting. I truly appreciate you coming on. And I say that I am going to show up every week and have these conversations because I think it is important for us as a people to have respectful discourse. Borders do not matter. We are Black men and Black women, and we need each other. So for me, listen, I could understand if the narrative about the passport bros was that they were leaving the country to find wives of other nationalities, and then they were not choosing Black women. That is not the narrative. And interestingly enough, a white gentleman responded to my commentary and said, no, just so you know, it's not just Black men leaving America to find wives. White men and Asian men are leaving as well, right? And so for me, it's this, hearing from Black women that passport bros are leaving America to find women in other countries that are less than is troubling. It's a very, very troubling concept to hold on to. The women in other countries are not less than. So Mr. is saying women in South Africa are way more pleasant to be around than in America. You just made the point. I've always thought, how do you have it worse? You live in the USA and complain so much. I have to say that I don't understand it either. And I'm just on the other side of the border. I'm in Canada. And having spent time in the US, I just spent over 2 years in the US with my ex-fiance. And I hear these complaints and I hear people talk about there are no good Black men and they are all out there having multiple babies and choosing white women when they're on the come up, and they want them to go 50-50s and they're not protectors and providers. And I spent 2 years being taken care of by the very same Black men that they say are no good in America. I spent 2 years being taken care of by this man in every way. But this is the same type of Black men that they say are no good. It's astounding to me. I just want to see what the comments here. Thank you guys for leaving this commentary as I read it, going back and forth. I just find that, I talked about it on a show a couple of weeks ago about, the problem with accountability is that it requires honesty. And a lot of us just do not want to be honest. We don't want to be honest about the fact that our choices have led to where we are in life, and we need to make better choices. So I'm just going to read Shelby's comment. Shelby said, I will be so bold to say that Black American women may desire their experience to be the experience, to be the benchmark of every other Black woman. I don't even know if that's bold. I almost think that's accurate, because that's the conversations that I get into. I get into conversations where people realize that I'm not, because I say it very boldly, I'm not American, I'm not from here, I'm very bold about it. I make a distinction, right? And it's almost like, well, your experience doesn't matter because you don't know what the Black American woman is going through. But the reality is, because most of the men that I date or get involved with are American, how am I not experiencing? These are the same men that you're saying don't treat you well. They cheat on you, they lie to you, they have babies on you, they don't support you, they don't pay bills. Like, these are the same men that you're saying are these awful men, but these are the same men who court me and for the most part treat me well. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've had amazing, glorious relationships with every single Black American men that I've been with. I've been clear. My husband cheated on me, but does that does not make him a terrible man. His action was terrible. He had a terrible action, but it does not negate the courting that he gave me. It does not negate his desire to want to take care of me. It does not negate the fact that me telling him that I had a bad day while he was stationed in England, the next day he found a florist who brought me teddy bears and flowers to my house in Toronto, Canada, while he was fighting the stupid war that Bush said which was really not a war, okay? Because he was stationed overseas having fought that war. That his cheating does not negate all of the amazing things he's done for me. And so for me, it's about mindset. If you choose to have a negative mindset about the men, then you're going to have negative outcomes with these men. So Mr. Unfortunately, it's just a bunch of losers using the name of passport bros to express their repulsive views towards men in general. No self-reflection whatsoever. And listen, I can understand what it must be like to see desirable men leave the country and get other women that they find more desirable than you. Because what that says is you're undesirable to them. That has to be a tough situation to be in, right? It has to be tough. Like I said, about 10 minutes ago, this passport bro thing would not be a thing if the passport bros were men who were undesirable. If they were the losers of the Black world, then this would not be an argument. The issue is passport bros are being seen as desirable and they're leaving to find wives from other countries. It's sending a message to the Black women in the country they're leaving that they are undesirable. And it is too much for us as women because, and this is Toshiba's opinion, women have bigger egos than men. This is why if a woman gets rejected by a man, it's like the world is over, right? Men get rejected every day. Men in clubs get rejected like every 5 minutes. For the guy who's on the hunt, he talks to 15 women, maybe one respond. As women, that doesn't happen to us. And so when we get rejected, it's like, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. He's gay or he just doesn't like Black women or whatever. Like we bring it to the extreme. And so when you see a bunch of men that you desire basically telling you that you're undesirable, you have to create a narrative that puts him in a negative light instead of acknowledging why you're not desirable. So Shelby has said, the men who you have encountered are not those same Black men that Black American women are complaining about. According to the so-called standards of Black Americans. It's so funny to me that it's as if I'm not finding unicorn Black American men. I'm not. I'm finding the same men who are dating Black American women. A lot of the men who I have dated who are born American, generation of American Shelby, I am one of the first women they've ever dated outside of the country. One of the first. They do not make it a thing like, oh, I'm only dating women outside of America, right? Unless they've lived outside of America, they've only dated women within America. And I happen to be one of the few. And they have such a pleasant experience with me that it's like, oh shit, maybe I should have done this sooner. And I used to always say, like, what's the deal? Like, me and my girls just didn't get it. We were like, we don't understand, right? Like, when we would visit, it was funny when we would visit the US. So I've got a group of amazing friends. I've got, I mean, I should just honestly like show y'all pictures of my friends. I have a group of amazing, beautiful friends. Like, my friends are just, beautiful, amazing women. Like, not just beautiful on the outside, like women who are beautiful on the inside. And we used to always question why, when we would go to the US, why men would automatically say, so just for because I need to show some of my friends, just so y'all know, these are me and my friends. Like, look at these beautiful Black women, right? Like, look at these beautiful Black women. Let me show you. This is my other best friend. It was her birthday. This is the group of us. Oh, that's a video. Y'all don't need to see all this video. So this is my other best friend. She happens to be Japanese. So we travel. I want to show the picture of all of us. We travel as a pack. And we used to always question, when we would go to America, why, based on what, okay, here's the group of us. So this is the group of me and my friends and our gay bestie. This, you always have to be gay bestie. So this is us, just beautiful women all around. And we used to question, why is it that men automatically knew we were not from America? We never understood it. We would like, they would come up to us, they'd start talking, and we, be pleasant and be like, you guys are not from here, are you? And we'd be like, no, we're from Toronto. And they'd be like, okay, well, what different countries are you from? And we tell the different countries of our background. And they're like, oh, we knew you were not American. And we'd ask why, and they said, because you were pleasant. And it never failed. New York, Atlanta, Miami, Boston, San Diego, San Francisco, wherever, right? That was always the response, because you were pleasant. And I thought, this has to be a joke, right? Like, I cannot believe, I'm just not going to believe this narrative that Black, American women are unpleasant or rude. And then social media, and I was like, oh, I get it. So Mr. I'm going to read these comments. I'm going to get off shortly because I do have another show to record tonight. But Mr. said, if passport bros were undesirable men, they would not be successful with women overseas. Yet another point of proof that women in America need to do some self-reflection. I absolutely agree with you. And that's the thing, Mr. That is why they're upset. Because if the men were undesirable and they were leaving, who cares? But it's when you see these desirable men, we only have to watch so much of the Kendra G's and rest in peace, Uncle Kevin Samuels. When women would come on and talk about they want a certain type of man, he was over 6 feet, he was over 6 figures, he had over 6 inches, right? He was a provider or protector. He was going to take care of these women and their bag of load of children. To know that if those men are leaving the country, what else do they have left? And that's the issue. And I think as women, and I talk about it all the time, because there is a lack of accountability within us and amongst us, we're not having the conversations that we need to be having. And that's why I get called pick me on social media. Because when I say, hey, let's stop for a second and analyze the situation and figure out, let's look at it. Where did we go wrong? And I say we, because I'm still a Black woman. I do not have to be a Black American woman to be able to understand the plight of a Black woman. I'm a Black woman, right? I date Black men only. So I understand the plight of dating a Black man. Like I'm just sorry. I cannot believe, Shelby, like you said, that I'm experiencing a different group of Black American men. No, I have just decided that I'm going to be a different type of woman, and I'm going to be an amazing woman of value that can add a woman of value. And I'm not going to talk about all of the trauma and everything that's happened and why I need to be hardened. Heartbreak shouldn't harden you. I'm sorry, it shouldn't. Shelby saying, sister, trust me, if we could break it all down, you would be surprised. I might be. I used to say that I used to think it was false, and I used to be like, it cannot be that bad. And then I kept hearing it over and over again. And trust me, and social media has put a spotlight. And listen, I think there are beautiful American, amazing women out there, Black women that live in America, are living their best lives and not speaking negatively about Black men. I think the problem has just been the social media atmosphere, and social media sphere is now full of Black women who have such a negative narrative about Black men that it's taking over, it's drowning out the positivity. So I'm just gonna, read these comments, and I'm gonna wrap up in a bit. So Mr. It's interesting how much happiness you find when you're a healed person with the ability to maintain healthy relationships longer than 6 to 12 months. You know what's funny about your comment, Mr. that I find interesting? So I'm going to tell you, my last relationship, my ex-fiance, when we got together, he said that one of the things that attracted him to me was the fact that I had long-term friendships. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, I hear you describe your friendships, and you're talking about friendships that have lasted 20 plus years. And then the first friend of mine he met in person was someone I had been best friends in Jamaica with since I was 5 years old, and I'm in my 40s. So we were looking at 30 plus years of someone I could still turn to from I was 5 years old and say, here you go. I was 40, 41 when I met him. And I was able to introduce him. And he said, I have encountered women who change best friends every few years. And the relationship you have with your girlfriend is like a training ground for the longevity of the relationship you can have with your man. Can you deal with conflict? Can you deal with drama? How do you resolve them? And any woman who can maintain a 20, 30 plus relationship with a group of female friends is a woman that a man should choose. And I was like, never thought about it that way, but he really broke it down to me. So I thought that was really interesting. So, you make a good point, right? Like, look at how I just bragged about my friends. I love my friends. They're amazing. They are a huge part of who I am and my viewpoints. And again, when you surround yourself by negativity, all you're going to see is negativity in the world. Mr. Canadian women have their problems too, but there is a little bit of a difference between Canada and America. We all have our problems. Mr. That was my point in some of the commentary I was saying to these women. We all have our problems. Every nation has its problem, right? Every society has its problem. So to say that your problems are so much greater than other Black women experience in other countries, so much so that your narrative of Black men is so bad, is crazy to me. Because we all are experiencing good and bad with the men in our country. Shelby says, you get called pick me simply because you do not choose to be disused by all the social media rhetoric. Because I have a brain. Dissuaded, sorry. So Shelby said he meant dissuaded by all the social media rhetoric, because I have a brain. And that's one thing my daddy said was really important, right? Is to make sure that I utilize the brain that the good Lord gave me to be able to have discernment and to be able to look at situations and evaluate them. People hear things and they jump on things and they're like, it has to be right? People look at their own experiences and not look at the experiences of other people and say, oh yeah, because it's my experience, it has to be everybody's experiences. I will acknowledge, I say it all the time, I understand that my dating experience isn't everybody's dating experience. I understand the concept of pretty privilege. I understand that I have a certain level of pretty privilege that's opened doors for me. I completely get that. However, I will also say that my choices have led to consequences, and me making certain choices in my life, like not having multiple children with multiple men, choosing to go to university and get a degree and get educated, choosing to vet certain men that enter into my life, choosing to surround myself by amazing women who are supportive and nurturing and, are your biggest cheerleaders. Those are important. So yes, as much as I understand that there's certain experiences I have based on the circle that I'm in, I still make certain choices. And I just think that's crazy. Mr. It's better to be a so-called pick-me rather than an unpicked. I say that all the time. I used to say all the time, funny enough, like, why am I pick-me? Because men choose me? Like, that's the most, why don't you want to get chosen? Like, that's the most ridiculous. I think that is the stupidest term, and whoever said that is the most, a pick-me is the most ridiculous term. Yes, please pick me. I like to get chosen. So last comment, and then I'm going to sign off. Mr. I've been chastised by Black women many times in my life for not taking care of my kids. Yet I don't have kids. They're just projecting their nonsense onto the rest of us. Pause. I said I was about to sign off. Mr. You have to explain that. I'm sorry, what? Okay, so you're being chastised for not taking care of kids you have yet to produce? Je ne comprends pas. That's French for I do not understand. You're being chastised for not taking care of kids you're yet to produce because these women chose to have babies and procreate with men who came for sex and ended up with families that they didn't want. Okay, I think I get it now. Projection is a thing, and it is easier to project. My degree's in psychology, and it's one of the things that we learn, right, is the idea of congruence. Is the life that you're living and the life that you're projecting actually congruent? It's a real thing. And there are a lot of people who are projecting certain things because they don't want to acknowledge that they're living a life that they didn't want, period. A lot of us are living lives we don't want. And we do not want to acknowledge that the reason we're living that life is that we've made bad choices. And so, I'm going to wrap it up and say, listen, I think this full passport bros thing is ridiculous. Again, as a woman who has been dating long distance for most of my dating life, I am 44 years old. And like I said, my most significant relationships have been with men who have lived outside of the country that I live in. I have been with mostly men in America, but I have also, one of my greatest loves was someone I grew up with in Jamaica, after I had already moved to Canada, right? I do not believe love has borders. And wherever your love is, I think you find it. I do not think that men choosing women from other countries are doing so as a FU to the women in the country that they're from, but it is about finding a woman who fits the archetype of the woman that you want to be in your life. It's just that simple. I want a certain archetype of men, and I have found that the certain archetype of men that I like doesn't live in the country that I live in. They live in another country. And I try dating men in the country that I live in, and it doesn't work as well as when I date men from the other country that's right beside us, because there's a certain archetype that I want and they fit that archetype. And there's nothing wrong with that. It does not mean that I'm giving an FU to the men that live in my country or my city. It's about I have a certain image of a man that I want to be with, an image of this man. I've yet to find him where I'm at. It's that simple. It's the same with men. So I find it ridiculous. So, Mr. Meaning they're saying to me everything they want to say to their multiple baby daddies, and I don't even have kids. I don't have unprotected sex with women I'm not married to. Amen to that. Protect your seed. Protect your seed. I will leave it with that. Gentlemen, as much as it's important for a woman to protect her womb, it is important for you to protect your seed. And also, I always say to men, stop having sex with women who have nothing to lose and will help you lose everything. If you are a certain stature of Black men, you should want to protect that stature. And yes, I understand that women are falling at your feet and they will give you vagina like no problem. They have no problems just giving it to you the first night, the first hour, the first whatever. But you have to consider the value of that woman who's willing to only know your first name and give you vagina very easily. No discernment, no vetting, no whatever. That woman has nothing to lose, but will absolutely help you lose everything. And so as much as I give it to the women, I think as men, the responsibility is on you. You choose the women. You choose us. You are the hunter. Stop hunting in swampland. Seriously. And that's just to the men of value. The men who are just out there slinging peen, I ain't got nothing to do with you. I don't deal with men with community dick. But men of value, that message was for you. Thank you, Shelby. You are amazing. Mr. Shelby, everyone who else is watching and not commenting, I appreciate you. I really created this show because I wanted to change the conversation around Black relationships. We need each other. I will tell you, Black men, I need you. I need you. I cannot live in this world. I cannot imagine dying in this world without the love of an amazing Black man. And it is important for us to be able to have respectful discourse with each other so we can change these narratives. The narrative is incorrect. I don't believe the narrative. I don't believe the narrative that Black men do not love Black women. We're not protecting Black women. I feel loved and protected by Black men in my life every day. Not romantic partners, just regular Black men in my life. Walking down the street, my brother, the men I work with, all of these things. I feel protected. I've never felt unsafe with a Black man or around a Black man. And so for those of you Black men who show up for us every day, I appreciate you. Keep doing it. I promise you there are women like me. We are everywhere. We do not listen to the social media sphere thinking that we're all out there. That is not true. I am surrounded by a group of Black women who love and adore and protect Black men. Emotionally, mentally, physically, we protect Black men with everything that we have. So let's really start having respectful discourse. Let's try to change the conversation around Black relationships, because if we continue down the path that we are, I just don't think it is good for the future generations of Black men and Black women and Black boys and Black girls. So I thank you. I love you all. Keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, bring a little fuck your feelings into your life, into your relationship, because it actually might make you better. When you fuck your feelings, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually have respectful discourse, because the concept of fuck your feelings is not to invalidate somebody else's feelings with your own. We all have an opportunity to share our experiences and to share our viewpoints without feeling invalidated. So I appreciate you all. Thank you to those on YouTube for the conversation, and thank you to those on Instagram. I hope you all have a good night. Bye.